Welcome to this episode of the People Dividend Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Horne, and today we're going to explore the topic of how self-worth, net worth, and legacy come together to create impactful lives. My guest is someone who has dedicated her career to empowering women to navigate financial independence, wellness, and philanthropy. Nancy Griffin is with me in the virtual studio today. She is a community leader, speaker, and advocate for women's empowerment, a recipient of the Canada 125 Award for Community Leadership. Nancy has spent years helping women juggle leadership, caregiving, and professional growth while building healthier, I think this comes with the territory, healthier, more confident communities. Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Mike.
Nancy, your work intersects so many important areas: financial independence, wellness, and philanthropy. Can you share what inspired you to focus on these themes and how your journey has shaped your perspective?
Well, it's interesting how we land in certain places in our lives. And I was recruited into the wealth management business. Once I got there, I was sorry I hadn't been there 20 years earlier because it's a great place for women to be. But obviously, you've got to have your licenses, and you're working with a great company, and they teach you on how you can handle the role well. But the one thing they don't do is give you any clients. So you're an entrepreneur. So I decided I would focus on women, not exclusively, but this was in the early 90s. And as I started to work with women, I realized that women have a disproportionate amount of responsibility pertaining to the health and wellness of their families. It's like every mom is a nurse practitioner or expected to be. So, as a wealth advisor, I then realized if you don't have your health, you're not going anywhere anytime soon. And of course, we've all been told that by our mothers. Yours too, Mike, I'm sure. And so I made health and wealth equal partners in creating a very substantial plan for the road ahead. And of course, as I did different events with not for profit health related organizations, I would charge my guests a nominal amount, which would go to the not for profit. And that would then show them about charitable giving's impact on their net worth. It's a deduction. But more importantly, or equally important, if we're in a situation where we're giving or sharing, more often than not, we're a greater beneficiary than who we've given to, because net worth comes a lot from feeling good about yourself. And I think when we give and we share, it does help us feel better. Fast forward 31 years later, philanthropy and legacy planning for women is a huge topic because women are earning a whole lot more, so they have that wealth to steward. But more importantly, they're inheriting wealth with a whole lot more to come. So all of a sudden, the whole huge power opportunity for women is stewarding this wealth.
And, reflecting on that 31 years plus, Nancy, how do you help women shift their mindset to see financial independence as a form of empowerment?
Well, first of all, I encourage them to step up to it.
Hmm.
Women don't really like to put themselves front and center. And sometimes the whole topic of money is one that they perceive to be front and center. So women kind of shy away from it. And women don't want to be blatant. They don't want to be rude. And money kind of equals a lot of those. So you just talk about how to put together a wealth plan and how that wealth plan enables you to not only be your best, but to give your best so that you can help others be their best.
You've mentioned this connection between health and wealth. Can you explain how those two areas intersect and why they're so important for women to prioritize?
Extremely important. Women often don't put their own health first because they're too busy focusing on everybody else's health. And so I remind them exactly the reminder that we all get when we're on the airplane. They have to put the mask on themselves first, because unless you are as well as you possibly can be, you can't be the asset to others. If you're not well, you end up being a liability to others. So you've got to make your health the priority first. And there are all sorts of different ways that you can do that. But the first is that mindset of making your health a priority and know that you're worthy and know that you shouldn't feel guilty making yourself a priority. Once you get that mindset, then you start to focus on yourself a little bit more, not exclusively, but as a priority, and away we go. And then, obviously, a wealth plan, a very, very, very good wealth plan will have anticipated health related challenges. When you work with a wealth advisor, you're not only going to hear what the best stock is to buy today, but that wealth advisor is going to say, what if you have a critical illness? What if you're disabled? What if you have premature death, either yours or your partner's or whomever? So that whole aspect of protection is extremely important. And often when you start to work with a client and you start to build that plan out, you focus on saving for retirement, meeting your daily needs, all the aspects of investing. And once the topic of insurance comes into play, people kind of go, oh my goodness, I knew you were going to sell me insurance. You know what? If you don't have insurance and something happens, that will be the biggest regret of your life.
You're passionate about encouraging women to embrace generosity. I was just thinking about that in some communication I had earlier today and explore philanthropy. Why do you think this is such a powerful way to create impact?
Well, women have always wanted power, and women have had power in their own way. But stepping up to being generous in a really positive way from a philanthropic standpoint or a legacy planning standpoint is even more powerful than ever. But again, I encourage every single woman to have a trusted wealth advisor that you're working with, because if you've decided to donate some funds to ABC, that in itself was a big step. But if you donate those funds to ABC without doing your due diligence on that organization, you may get a surprise. So women need to be very, very courageous, but they also need to be very, very discerning. And that generation or the generosity comes back in spades. It goes back to the point that I made about the self-worth aspect of giving and sharing. It just is a
Yes.
whole new power opportunity for women.
Well, following up on that, can you share a story or example of how philanthropy has created ripple effects in a workplace or community?
Well, I can. I can give you an example I'm involved with a Rotary organization, and often people will have purchased insurance. Maybe they had it as a coverage through their employer and now they're retired and they've got this insurance and they say, "You know what? I don't need replacement income anymore. I think I'm going to let this insurance go. I don't need to pay these." Well, wait a minute now. Let's think about turning that insurance policy into your philanthropic statement. And in Canada, 100% of that insurance payout is tax free. And so you're missing a huge opportunity by not paying attention to the benefits that insurance provide. The one thing that we all know for sure is that nobody gets out of here alive. And so when you start to take that into consideration, nobody knows when you're going to pass on. Hopefully, we all want to live long and live well. But you smart people will have anticipated and they will protect themselves. And the generosity factor always is a ripple effect down through your family.
And what advice would you give to someone who wants to start building a legacy but doesn't know where to begin?
Well, obviously, there are all sorts of ways that you can learn online, libraries, wherever. I encourage people, every hospital often has seminars or webinars. That's a great way to get started because they will want to talk to you about all the different aspects of philanthropy as it pertains to what they're working on needing funds for their hospital. Often it will be a reasonably big situation, meaning a large group of people. So if you go with a friend, you go with your own questions. Your friend asks somebody else asks a question. So all of a sudden you're going to learn a lot. And then afterwards, you can meet with them and talk to them further, or again, go to your wealth advisor and very simply say to your wealth advisor, what about philanthropy, legacy planning? It's something that I really, really want to take into consideration. And quite frankly, I'm thinking about it just with my own portfolio, but I'd like to involve my kids as well so that they're starting to learn. And often the best time to have those conversations are in the summertime when families tend to gather and have some time.
Nancy, you've had having such a rich career, from curating events to collaborating with not-for-profit health organizations. What's one leadership lesson that has most shaped your perspective?
What's one leadership lesson? Well, when I've been in leadership roles, I was the president of our Rotary Club last year. And the most important thing that I think I can do is to create other leaders because there will have been people that step into your bailiwick. Don't try to do it all yourself. Understand who that person is, what they want to do, what their capabilities are, and the best thing you can do is get them into that sweet spot so that they can soar. And a collective soar is incredibly powerful.
If you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Get into the wealth advisory business in my 20s.
Nice, short, and sweet. Wonderful. And let's get into some actionable advice before we summarize and wrap up. And again, for listeners who want to start building their self worth, net worth, or legacy, what's one small step in any one of those areas?
I would just say work with a trusted advisor. And if you
Hmm.
haven't got an advisor and you want to get started and you really feel that you really don't have enough to go to somebody and ask for help, it doesn't matter whether you've got $25 or, $25 million. There are resources out there that are there to serve you. None of us wants to do our own dental work. I don't think even a dentist would want to do their own dental work. So if you're getting started, everybody has a bank that they generally interact with. The bank has tremendous resources, starting with a very little amount through to a very large amount. So start with your bank and work it up from there.
Wonderful. Where can listeners learn more about your work and connect with you?
Good question. We're just about to launch some new initiatives this fall. We're on all the social media, but the best thing that anybody can do to stay connected is to send me an email, which means you go into our database. And as soon as we're launching anything, you will be informed. And my email address is nancy@womenworthwellness.com.
Wonderful, Nancy. Thank you for your generosity.
My pleasure.
Nancy, you've reminded us that self worth and net worth are deeply connected, and that embracing generosity and legacy can create ripples far beyond ourselves. Your insights are showing us how to build healthier, more confident communities while living impactful lives. Thank you, Nancy, for joining the People Dividend podcast today. And I invite my listeners to connect with Nancy's work. And for all of you listening today who enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and be sure to tune into the next episode of the People Dividend. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.